Hello and welcome back to more Films Under Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Baikov, joined by our host Maverick Drenzaria. This week we're taking a look at the film Conan the Destroyer.
Yep. Des and Troy worked on this. Because when you put them together, they destroy. But anyway. So, this was released on June 29th, 1984.
My favorite year.
Yep. George Orwell's favorite year. It cost less than the first movie, $18 million. It also made less than the first movie. It only made $30 million. So the cost cutting didn't really
help much.
Didn't help, no.
I will say that is a bit surprising to have a movie like Conan the Barbarian, which was, somewhat of a success. Then for the sequel, they toned back the budget. That's just not something you usually feel like would happen.
Yes, it is surprising.
And that's not the only thing that got toned back, because this movie, unlike the first film, is rated PG.
It is incredibly tonally different than the first movie.
John Milius did not come back, which is a disappointment. So in the director's chair, we instead had Richard Fleischer, which some of his other credits include Fantastic Voyage, classic, Dr. Dolittle.
Really? Like the old one?
The older one with Rex Harrison.
Wow.
It is not a good movie. Soylent Green.
Really?
Yep, same director as Soylent Green.
Wow.
Which is made out of people, We know that because we live in 2022, the year that movie takes place in. And he also directed Red Sonja.
Oh, back-to-back hits with this man.
Yep. The screenwriter, it was written by Stanley Mann, who wrote The Collector. Oh, Terrence Stamp is in it, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, he also wrote The Naked Runner, the movie where Frank Sinatra uses Han Solo's gun.
Oh, really?
Which I mentioned during the Superman 4 podcast, because it shares the same director as Superman 4. He wrote Damien Omen 2, another well-regarded sequel.
He likes working on sequels, doesn't he?
Meteor. There's a classic. Oh, gosh. The things I'll watch just because Sean Connery is in them. And Firestarter. The older Firestarter movie. Yep, the one with Drew Barrymore.
Huh.
And George C. Scott with an eye patch. And what's interesting, the guys that wrote the story for this movie were comic writers for Marvel.
Oh, really?
And one of them had even written some Conan comics.
Huh.
Now, the cast. This has some interesting casting choices. Now, obviously, Arnold Schwarzenegger came back.
Yep, back as Conan.
I mean, how can you... Why would you recast Conan the Barbarian? I mean...
Yeah.
Grace Jones.
Yep.
Which this was... I don't think this is her first movie, but this is her first, mainstream movie. Because she was a singer.
Yeah, it looks like she was in a couple of other things before this, but, one of them was, uncredited.
And then after this,
kind of background
she's, of course, in A View to a Kill.
Yeah.
As Mayday.
Oh, right after that, huh?
Yep, the year after. And you know who else is in A View to a Kill? Dolph Lundgren has a minor role in that.
Oh.
And he was in
Oh no, Masters of the Universe.
Universe. So an almost direct connection right there. Wilt Chamberlain, he was in this. He was a basketball player.
Yep. Very tall. 7 feet.
Yeah. I don't know if he was in any other movies, but anyway, Mako, he's back.
Yep. He's back as the wizard again.
Same character in the first movie. He narrates and he is along for the quest. Tracy Walter, which I don't. I looked at his filmography and it's like I remember these movies, but I don't remember who he is in them. Olivia d'Abo, and this is technically not her first time on this podcast because she had a voice cameo in Rise of Skywalker.
Really?
Yeah.
As who?
Oh, fuck. I don't remember, but it was...
Oh. Yeah, okay. I just looked it up. It's Luminara Unduli.
Yeah. Oh, another returning cast member, Sarah Douglas. She played Ursa in the first 2 Superman movies. And she's also the villain in this.
Yep.
So typecasting right there. Pat Roach, he's in this.
Yep. Is Thotamon. Totamon?
Something. But he was also in Willow, so this isn't his first time on the podcast either.
Nope.
Jeff Corey, which... When I saw his name in the credits, I was trying to figure out who he was, because the name sounded familiar, and apparently he played Tom Chaney in True Grit.
Oh,
the John
okay.
Wayne one. Sven Ole Thorson, he was another returning cast member from the first movie. Played a completely different character. And he's also in Red Sonja.
Oh.
Which makes him and Arnold the only actors to appear in all 3 of these movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Andre the Giant was also in this.
Yes.
Fezzik himself.
Although he's in costume, so you don't really get to see him.
Anybody want a peanut? But yeah. And we got music by Basil Polidorus again.
Yep.
And the involvement of Dino De Laurentiis again. And I also noticed during the end credits that Vic Armstrong did some of the stunt work.
Okay.
Just to rub it in that we haven't done Indiana Jones yet. As well as having Pat Roach in it too also kind of does that. Yeah. But okay, so initial thoughts. I want to hear yours first.
So it's totally a very different movie.
Completely, yeah.
It's a lot lighter, a bit more jovial. It doesn't take itself as seriously, but I really did enjoy watching the movie, I will say.
Because I was wondering, because this is your first time seeing it.
Yeah.
As I'd seen it before, but I couldn't really remember some of it. I couldn't remember if I liked it or not. And watching it again didn't help me in that regard. Because actually, I don't know if this has happened before, but I'm on the fence about this movie.
Really?
I can't decide whether I liked it or not.
Huh.
Because it's watchable, but it's... I think it's a step down from the first movie, definitely.
Oh yeah, no, the first movie is leagues better than this.
The first one's a really good movie. I think having it be rated PG, I don't think that was necessarily the problem, because there were actually some bloody parts in this, which
There were, especially at the end.
I was surprised at how bloody some of this was. It was
Yeah.
pushing it for a PG. Like, I think the problem with the movie was just the story and the characters and the tone. Because the tone, it is such an abrupt shift from the first one.
It is very different, but I still feel like while watching it, I was having a good time. Like, I didn't get angry at the movie, and I wasn't really bored for the most part.
I wasn't angry. I was occasionally a little annoyed by parts of it, but I wasn't hating anything.
Yeah.
But it really makes me wonder what a trilogy of Conan movies done by John Milius would have been like.
And something I will say is, this is jumping way far ahead, but just based off of what Mako says at the end of this movie in his outro,
The next one he would have been
almost
King Conan.
Yeah, and not only that, but it sounds like it would have been a darker movie, because he says, like, the crown would rest on his troubled brow. And just with that image at the end, it's like, okay, it sounds like the third one would have probably had more of the tone of the first one.
What I'm imagining the third one would have been like is Richard III with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's what I'm imagining the third one being like.
And I will say, it is a shame that we never got a third movie in this trilogy.
Unless you count Red Sonja.
I'm not counting Red Sonja.
Red Sonja is a piece of shit. Don't watch it. But yeah, I was surprised. Conan the Destroyer, I was surprised it's not a horrible movie. Like, it's reasonably paced.
Yeah.
It has entertaining parts. I think part of the problem is it's just, unlike the first, it doesn't do enough to stand out from like other fantasy movies of this type. Because while watching, I was just noticing, oh, that kind of reminds me of that kind of...
That might help me just because I haven't seen a whole lot of fantasy movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I think the extent of my fantasy movies that I've watched are this series, Willow, and The Lord of the Rings.
That's it?
I think that's it. I can't think of any other fantasy movies that I've watched.
The Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah, never mind. I watched that.
I assume you haven't seen Wizards.
No, I have not.
Fire and Ice.
I've seen The Wizard, if that's what the movie's
No, that doesn't count as a fantasy. It counts as a terrible movie, but it doesn't count as fantasy. That's interesting you haven't seen too many fantasy movies, but anyway. I mean, it's not like my favorite genre by any means. I'm more sci-fi and horror than fantasy.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, I am honestly on the fence about this movie, and I was curious, like whether you liked it or not. Just
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit, actually. I had fun watching it.
I'm glad you did. Because I always feel bad when we watch a movie for this podcast, and you end up like just hating it, which.
I don't think I've really done that since we've watched like Superman 4 and Supergirl.
I was probably getting more enjoyment out of those movies than you, so I felt really bad about that. Just because I kind of knew what to expect with those,
I had I just went in raw and I hated every second of it.
But okay, I guess we can get to the recapping. So
yeah, one thing real quick before we get into the recap, just something funny that I thought I'd point out. So I usually have a plot synopsis pulled up just so I can go through and see like what are the beats of the movie.
Oh, like Wikipedia or something?
I go onto IMDb because it usually has a pretty detailed synopsis.
This one doesn't.
And so for Conan the Barbarian, there's like 21 paragraphs. You have to scroll in order to read it all. For this movie, there's 3 paragraphs, and the last paragraph is just the last scene of the movie.
Wow. But yeah, okay, so getting into our recapping of it. So And speaking of recapping, the first scene is Mako narrating again.
Yep.
And it's basically the same narration as the first. Like, it's almost
Yeah.
word for word. It's just a new recording. The music's a little bit different.
And it even ends with him saying, "Let me tell you of the days of high adventure again."
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a good line. To start off. And the opening theme starts, and it's not as good as the first one.
No.
It's decent, though. You know, it's fine. I mean, it's Basil Polidoris. You know, he always turns in a good score. And the opening of this made me feel like I was going to be watching a Genghis Khan movie. Because the writers all looked like Mongols.
Yeah.
Oh, they might have even been, for all I know. I wonder, is John Wayne going to show up?
My favorite Mongol.
You better not mess with me, Pilgrim, or you'll face the Mongol horde. God, that movie's ridiculous. That's not a direct quote, by the way, but I would have laughed.
I figured as much.
The dialogue in that movie is about as ridiculous as that. We see Conan kneeling down in a place with a bunch of rocks.
Along with his companion for the movie, Malik, who's kind of just comic relief that's not really needed.
Yeah, we'll get more into that. He was definitely one of my least favorite parts of the movie.
I will say that's the part that I really didn't like, is like most of the scenes with Malik in him.
He's not the worst comic relief we've had on this podcast, because he has to compete with Jar Jar,
Jim Carrey in Batman Forever.
I like Jim Carrey in Batman Forever. Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Fuck, who was in? In Lenny Luthor in Superman 4.
Oh,
he was probably the worst. Out of all of them, he was
Lenny
probably
Luthor
the
was
worst.
a person. Yeah.
But they get attacked by the Mongols, who have nets, and we get a pretty silly fight scene here.
Yeah.
Although, there is one part where Arnold slashes a guy with a sword, and there was a surprising amount of blood there.
I know, and that's like, there's not a whole lot of parts of this movie where there's just a ton of blood. That was one of them.
Like, it's not as gory as the first movie, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's... I mean, for PG, damn. Yeah. And Arnold punches a horse, like Mongo does.
Yeah.
Blazing Saddles. And yeah, the humor here just wasn't working.
Yeah.
It just wasn't working. Although I will say the sword fighting here was good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Like, most of the action scenes in this I thought were fine. Like, that wasn't the problem with
I can't really think of an action scene that I didn't really like in this movie, honestly.
Like, they weren't as good as in the first one, but...
Yeah. They weren't as epic. They didn't really feel as high tension, I would say, but they were pretty good action scenes.
And then they meet Queen Taramis / Ursa from Superman 2.
And she basically tells him that she has a quest for him, and that if Conan completes it, she'll give him whatever he wants.
And what he wants is for her to... No, they don't have sex. That's the obvious joke here. But,
That's what the first movie would have done.
basically, yeah. But no, what he wants is, to have sex. But he wants to do it with the, he wants her to bring Valeria back to life.
Yep.
You know, because he's still distraught about that. Which I kind of wish they'd done a little more with that.
Yeah, it shows up here. It's kind of Conan's motivation at like one other part in the movie,
But
and
it's
then
not heavily
it disappears.
focused on. Like, I think that's one problem with the movie is Conan's motivation. Like,
He technically has one. It's established, but he doesn't. We don't really see
It's
much of that
not
motivation.
built on.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first one, he wants revenge, and it's very clear that that's what's driving him on his, journey throughout the movie. And they go into town. He encounters the camel from the first movie. I'll admit this scene was funny.
I thought it was just kind of a fun callback that we got the camel again.
He apologizes to the camel, it spits on him, and he hits it again.
Now, what I want to know is, in the movie, it sounded like Malik somehow recognized the camel.
Yeah, Malik wasn't there when this encounter happened, so I guess it was just some story that Conan told him.
I guess. Speaking of that, actually, it's not quite as bad as it is in Escape from New York and Escape from LA, but there's a lot of people who seem to know who Conan is.
That's true. That was something I noticed. Yeah, Grace Jones knows who Conan is.
Yeah.
I guess he did destroy the snake cult, so
that probably would give you some notoriety.
That and the first film did well at the box office, so yeah. They go to the Queen's castle, and she says her daughter has a birthmark and has to find a key that's guarded by a wizard, which leads to treasure. Basically, he has to go on a quest. I mean, okay, just a lot of exposition establishing you.
Yeah, and it's all pretty quick, which I do appreciate. It doesn't overstay its welcome into the palace.
And she also secretly tells a guard she wants her daughter to remain a virgin, and she also wants Conan to be murdered.
Yep, and so this guard is Bombata.
Now we know who the villain is. I think that was one of the problems I had with the movie. The villain isn't in it that much, which, granted, Tulsa Doom also doesn't get a huge mastery, but even then, James Earl Jones's presence in that movie
is a lot greater than Queen Taramis,
and she's better than what's her name from Willow.
Bev
Morta. Bev Morta probably had even less screen time. Well, most of Bev Morta's screen time was just her getting mad at her incompetent henchmen.
And then the final scene where she acts like Darth Sidious for 5 minutes before getting banished to hell.
So yeah, they set off on their journey.
Would you like to hear something fun?
Huh?
On the IMDb plot synopsis, we just finished the first paragraph.
And let me guess what the second paragraph is. Conan and his friends encounter many monsters on the way.
That's basically what it is.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, they set off on their journey. They find some cannibals
that are trying to eat Conan's friend Akiro from the last movie.
They find Mako, and Conan cuts a guy's head off.
Yeah.
In another scene that would not get a PG rating nowadays. And yeah, they stop the cannibals and then they save Mako.
I kind of like the line that he gives when he's asked why they were trying to eat him. And he's like, they thought that if they ate me, they could absorb my magic powers.
Okay, that's pretty good. I'll admit, I didn't write down too many lines from this movie, but...
I mean, neither did the people who are updating the quotes on IMDb. There's 19 of them.
Neither did the people who wrote the script either. So. But yeah. You don't have to write too much dialogue for Conan. Just...
Yeah.
And then we get a scene of... Oh, fucking hell. Then we get a scene of... whatever her name was, she's telling Conan that the key is a jewel only she can touch. Maybe I should have looked up what her name was.
Jenna.
Jenna. Okay, that's a boring name for a fantasy.
Yeah,
movie.
that's why I didn't remember it. It's just a person's name.
Malik, Akiro, Bombada, Zula. That's kind of racist. Conan and Queen Termit. Okay. Thoughts on that. Okay. This movie is the advantages in this movie don't cover the characters. I'll just say that. And then again, more walking. They briefly see a mammoth fossil.
Yeah.
Which I wonder if Simba is there being chased by hyenas. And then they find a village, and Grace Jones is fighting there.
And so they basically end up saving her, and she just decides to join in the group as a life debt. Kind of like Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks. She wants Conan to do something. Insert Spaceballs reference.
They're getting all their air back. Do something. Do something. Do something.
And Conan cuts her chains. She wins the fight, rides away with them.
Yep.
And Bombata, the guard, he's not happy about this, and she fights him. They're getting in quite a few fights during this.
Yep. Very rapidly in succession as well.
And one thing I read actually is that Grace Jones and Wilt Chamberlain did not get along on the set.
Really?
And it shows in the movie. I mean, their characters
Yeah.
don't seem like they like each other.
Yeah.
And Conan's... Okay, we have to talk a little bit about Conan's sidekick. Malik. Conan's sidekick, he really adds nothing to this movie.
No. They try to make him like a comic relief, but he just feels shoehorned in.
He just makes a dumb comment every now and then.
Yeah. It's usually there's a joke that works followed by a line from Malik that doesn't work.
It's often just him stating the obvious.
Yeah.
Hell,
Yeah.
his character should have just been named Captain Obvious. I mean, like that. Because, like, gee, we're in a tight spot. Yeah. And yeah, Grace Jones somehow knows Conan's name.
Yeah. It's just another Snake Plissken thing. Like, hey, if everybody knows the main character, we don't need to explain it how they know it. They just know it.
It makes more sense in Escape from New York.
It kind of does, yeah.
Because, I mean, this is a guy who, you look at his, like, rap sheet that they read out, I mean, he sounds like a pretty infamous guy. They ride past snowy mountains, which made me think of the Led Zeppelin song Misty Mountain Hop. And The Hobbit as well, which is what that song was referencing.
Yeah.
And then they find the Emerald City.
Just kind of off in the distance.
And there's a wizard that lives there, because of course.
And so the wizard is Totemon.
He's a one-eyed wizard, and he's played by Pat Roach. And he looks sort of like Merlin did in the movie Excalibur.
A little bit.
Is that a fantasy movie that you've seen?
I've not seen it, but I've seen, like, screenshots of it.
And while they're sleeping, he turns into a bird of smoke.
And kidnaps Jenna.
I was, like, trying to figure out what to call that thing, but then Mako just said that it was called a bird of smoke. I'm like, okay, there. You just made my job easier. What? I mean, fair enough. Okay, that's a good enough name for it. And they go across the lake to get to the castle. Then they go underwater. And as around the point of the movie, I was realizing, this one definitely feels more like a typical fantasy movie than the first one did.
Yeah. It's also incredibly fast-paced.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I do really like the set designs in this scene. I just like the way everything looks.
Yes, the set design was pretty good, yeah. Yeah. They go up like some rock staircases, like in Lord of the Rings. And there was also a harp on the score during this scene, I noticed.
Huh. I mean, I guess it fits for the location, like an ice palace.
I guess Harpo Marx's ghost was on the set that day. But yeah. And Arnold finds a jewel in a room. There's a bunch of people in red cloaks there, which at this point I'm thinking, oh fuck, it's the Red Death. Arnold is in the Mask of the Red Death. And they merge into one and turn into a monster
that Conan must fight. But it turns out that although the monster can strangle him, he can't touch the monster with his sword.
And at first, I thought this was Andre the Giant.
Nah, he appears later.
But I looked it up later, and no, it turns out this was Pat Roach.
Oh, really? He was under the makeup and stuff?
I guess, yeah. He plays both the wizard and this monster, apparently. And it attacks Conan, and this fight is absurd.
It's stupid, but it's fun.
If it is entertaining. It was one of the few scenes I could actually remember from this movie before I rewatched it, so... yeah. But it feels more like a wrestling match than a life and death struggle.
It really does.
Because he spins Arnold around at one point.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, the camera work in that scene was great.
I also forgot how early in the movie this happened, too. Like, because this is only in, like, the first third of the movie. And then Arnold accidentally breaks a mirror, and that's when he realizes the monster's weakness, because when he breaks the mirrors, it cuts the monster. And so... he also, he somehow realizes the wizard is behind one of the last two mirrors.
Yeah, that part's not really explained.
Like, let's see, what's behind door number 2? It's like, what? And also behind one of the other mirrors is his companions. They're behind the other mirror. So he's like trying to figure out which one to throw a spear at. This kind of doesn't make sense. I don't know. But
my favorite part is so he just decides to throw his sword at one of them. He does, and then it immediately stabs the wizard on the other side of the mirror.
Yeah, it impales him. And he dies. And then they rescue the princess and get away, basically.
Yep. With the jewel in tow.
Yeah, they get the jewel. It starts singing about intuition or what. No, wait, wrong jewel. And the castle starts collapsing. Raiders of the Lost Ark, anyone? They escape, but not before being chased by a giant boulder and finding Alfred Molina's corpse on some spikes. There's a violent throat slit. Just to remind you, this is PG, but during the pre-PG-13 days.
Yeah.
I don't remember what was happening around here.
So that's when members of Queen Taramis's guards started to attack the group in an attempt to kill Conan.
Yeah. There's like a sword fight on horseback.
Yep.
And they fall off the horse, which, not gonna lie, this is a really good sword fight.
It is.
You know, I like the part where Arnold like spins the sword around.
Yeah. Although I will say it was surprisingly bloodless. Like I remember Arnold like slashing someone across the stomach and nothing came out.
Another thing I was noticing about this movie is Grace Jones makes lots of weird faces.
Yeah.
Just like in A View to a Kill. She does that in A View to a Kill as well. Like that during that weird fight scene between her and Christopher Walken. What the hell was that? Oh man, if only Christopher Walken was in this movie. That's the case with most movies, though. If only Christopher Walken was in this movie.
He could have played the wizard.
Yeah. You see, I have the jewel.
You see, I have the jewel.
Your princess is in another castle. It really slowed down around this part of the movie, I noticed. It was like around the hour mark. Because it's just scenes of them sitting around a campfire.
Yeah, this is like the one part of the movie where they just kind of breathe, but it's a really long breath.
It doesn't add much. Like, I guess this is supposed to be quote-unquote character development, but it doesn't really develop anything.
Yeah. Because what we get, basically, is Malik hitting on Zula, which she denies his advances. Then Jenna goes and tries to hit on a very drunk Conan.
We get probably my favorite, one of my favorite exchanges in the movie.
I suppose nothing hurts you.
Only pain.
Which, that was one of the only lines I could really remember from this movie. It also sort of reminded me of a quote from Roadhouse. Patrick Swayze says, "Pain don't hurt." But anyway.
The other line that I remember from this movie happens in this scene when Jenna's asking Conan about Valeria. And she says, "Could there ever be anyone else?" And Conan, very drunk, says, "Not the queen, lot on your knife." So he means to say "not on your life," but because he's drunk, he says "lot on your knife."
I think I do vaguely remember this now, yeah.
And I thought the subtitles broke, or like someone put in the subtitles wrong for a second there. I was like, what?
Yeah, it was weird getting to this part, because before this, the movie was really fast-paced, and then it just goes...
It screeches to a halt. And this is really...
Because the characters have to do something, they go and find a cave.
Yep. And so it's like
reads some wall text.
And it's basically talking about the prophecy that talks about Jenna grabbing the horn of Dagoth and causing the end of the world.
And there's a fireplace with teeth on it.
Yep.
Arnold says "crom" when it lights on fire, so a little bit of continuity from the first.
He says "crom" a lot throughout this movie.
That's the only one I can remember off the top of my head.
I don't remember the specific scenes, but I do remember he said it like 4 or 5 times.
And then she goes, finds the horn, and the fire goes away, which this kind of reminded me of a scene from Game of Thrones. Specifically the first season, Daenerys. But anyway,
As they try to leave the temple with the horn, they end up getting stopped by the priests of this temple, who have been guarding the horn for, like, centuries.
Yeah, they meet, like, another wizard.
Yeah.
And he's, like, giving some more exposition, and we get... How did you forget this line? We get the other memorable line from the movie, where Arnold just yells, "Enough talk!" Throws a knife at the guy and kills him. That's like the best part of the movie, right there. Well, that's the best line in the movie, bro. I mean, more movies need Arnold interrupting some exposition by yelling that and killing someone. We could have used that in some scenes from Willow, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Enough talk. There's some more fight scenes, and they escape, of course.
In almost a Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of way, too. Because they basically go to back of the temple and break down like a couple bricks and slide out.
Yeah, having Vic Armstrong doing the stunts might have also contributed to that. And they go to stop the sacrifice.
After Bombada takes the Princess Jenna away.
Conan's sidekick at one point says, "You know you can't do without me," which, to quote Barack Obama and Bob the Builder, yes we can. We can do without you, goddammit. Also, is it just me, or is there a lot of horse riding in this movie?
There is quite a bit of horse riding.
There might even be more than in the first one, now that I think about it. We see the queen again.
As she's preparing for the sacrifice, wearing a very interesting dress.
Yep, the killer queen. Or she's doing the March of the Black Queen. Anyway. We get another Spaceballs-like line.
Oh, yeah, no, it was Malik's brother's sister. Oh, hold on. I gotta look that. It was Malik's cousin's sister's brother.
And what does that make us? Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Which is what you are about to become. I will say, I like the wizard's cane.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
A multi-sided cyclops skull.
Yeah.
So yeah, Conan and his friends, they're just sneaking around the castle. You know, they could really use the help of Inigo Montoya and Andre the Giant to storm the castle.
Yeah.
Then again, they get too distracted trying to get revenge on the six-fingered man.
And so after Conan and his allies storm the castle, Conan ends up fighting Bombada.
Yep, and he ends up killing him.
Yep.
And the wizard gets killed with a spear.
That was honestly one of the funniest scenes. Just Zula coming out of nowhere, launching a spear through the air, and just going right through the wizard first attempt. However, this interrupts the ceremony, and it stopped before Jenna can be sacrificed, causing the Dagoth statue to come to life.
They like put the horn on the statue. The statue turns a weird color and then turns into a monster with a horn that looks like something from a Godzilla or Gamera movie.
Yeah, it looks like knockoff Lovecraft monster almost.
Like I was thinking of like Megalon or something.
Hmm.
Or maybe a Ray Harryhausen movie like Clash of the Titans. And this is the monster played by Andre the Giant.
Yep.
And Conan fights it, and there's a weird strobe effect.
Because there's supposed to be lightning going on outside, but they flash it so often.
It's no giant snake fight, but it's entertaining.
It is. And it honestly has a pretty violent ending.
It does. I forgot. I was like watching this and going, please tear the horn off. Please tear the horn off. Please rip the fucking horn off. And he rips the thing's horn off, and it's pretty bloody.
It takes a while, too, because he's like ripping it off for like a minute before it finally comes all the way off, and then just starts bleeding from the horn wound.
Yep, it was pretty good.
And so with that, we're done with the second paragraph of the plot synopsis. Then we get our final scene of the movie, where
we get the ceremony scene from Star Wars.
Basically, where Jenna, who is now the queen, ends up offering everybody a position as part of her court.
And this also kind of reminded me of Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, a little bit.
Here's a heart, here's a brain, here's courage. You know.
Yeah. And she makes Malik the court fool, which I found appropriate.
Yeah, that sounds about right. What are you?
And then she offers to marry Conan, who declines and says he'll basically become king by his own hand.
Yeah, Conan says he'll have his own kingdom and queen. I guess because he didn't get Valeria back.
Yeah.
Because he didn't. What the fuck? They promised to bring Valeria back to life, and it didn't fucking happen. Then again, she was a manipulative bitch, so...
And so we get one last voiceover by our good friend Akiro the Wizard.
Yep, he says that Conan became the king of his own kingdom.
But that's a story for another time.
Yeah, the text says that, but that's another story.
That we never got.
Okay, I wish we had, though. That would have been interesting.
I know.
So, what are your final thoughts?
I enjoyed this movie. It was fun. I do like how it was a bit faster paced. It, made it pretty easy to get through. I liked a lot of the action scenes. The sets were great. I liked the monster fight at the end. It's nowhere near as good as the first movie, and the story isn't quite there, but it's a fun watch.
I'm still... Like, there's highlights. Obviously, like, the action scenes are entertaining.
Yeah.
I think. But I think the problem is just the plot is nothing special. Everything here just feels adequate, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's more of an excuse to have the action scenes rather than being its own good story.
Like, there's nothing here that's, like, really, really horrible, but there's nothing in it that's, like, spectacular, I guess. Arnold's not given as many good lines as in the first. He has, like, 2 really funny lines, those being, the pain line and...
Yeah.
Enough talk,
Knife throw.
Yep. The villain's not as good.
To be fair, it's hard to top James Earl Jones.
True, yeah, but still, the villain in this movie's very forgettable. And Conan doesn't really have that great of chemistry with the other characters in this.
Not really.
Like, some of the supporting characters just aren't very impressive, if I'm being honest. Like, especially Malik. I mean, for fuck's sake.
Malik's pretty bad.
Yeah. Lambada, I didn't really think was... Bombada, whatever his name was. Lambada. That's a type of dance, not a... it's just that I think about the supporting cast, it's just not really, like, positives, there are positives. The music, I think the music's good. The action scenes, like I mentioned, Arnold. I like Arnold in this movie, I mean... It's hard not to. He's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, he's pretty enjoyable in most of the stuff he's in.
I kind of wish they'd given him, like, more emotional stakes, like in the first Conan movie, but...
Yeah. Maybe bring back more of Valeria.
Yeah, they definitely should have done more with that. I thought the costumes were still good.
Yeah.
The sets are still good. And it's not a boring movie.
No.
It's perfectly watchable.
It's able to keep its energy.
Yeah, there's worse movies you could be watching. Red Sonja, for example. I'm glad we're not doing a podcast on that movie, because that movie is a piece of shit.
Next time we watch the 1997 movie, Cole the Conqueror.
I was going to mention that when we got to the trivia. But if the first 2 Conan movies are the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, then Red Sonja is the Supergirl movie.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah, I'm kind of split on this movie, though. Like, there's parts of it that are entertaining. I definitely liked it less than you did, though, I guess. But I guess the question is, would I watch it again? And, I probably would, actually.
Yeah, like after some time has passed, I'd probably watch it again if I watched the first movie.
If I watch the first one again, I'll watch this again. It's not as good as the first one by any means, but it's fine. It's fine. But I guess I am a little bit undecided on this one. It's the only time, like, we've done a podcast. I'm like, I'm not sure, like, but I don't know. Maybe if I see it again, it'll grow on me a little bit, but, yeah. It's certainly not as bad as some people make it out to be.
Yeah, I was expecting something a lot worse.
Yeah. I think it's just the expectations and also the PG rating. I feel like that kind of hurts it. It's, I guess it doesn't stand out much. It's not like a... You go through Arnold Schwarzenegger's filmography, this wouldn't make the top 10, obviously. Yeah. I mean, there's so many better ones.
Like Hercules in New York.
Hercules in New York. Oh, God. I guess I do like it, but I just have reservations about it. I guess is my final... while watching it, I wasn't bored. It wasn't painful. I was enjoying a good portion of it, so it's just I kind of wish the plot was better and the characters, but
And I will admit,
I really liked the fight scenes with those monsters.
Yeah. I will say it would have been very interesting to see a sequel that was more in line with the first movie in terms of tone and everything and atmosphere.
I feel like that might be another reason I'm kind of conflicted on, just because the tone is so different.
Yeah.
And I really want to know what it would have been like if John Milius had made an entire trilogy of Conan movies. Especially with, the third one being him as a king and it going a darker route. That would have been cool. But
yeah.
Nope. But, considering what it is rather than what it isn't, it's enjoyable enough. Yeah. There's certainly worse sequels out there. There's better ones, but there's worse ones, While watching it, I was definitely pleasantly surprised at it, because I was expecting it to be worse than it was, but no, it was fine. It's great to be fine. I think part of it is just I was enjoying it, but I found it hard to justify the enjoyment. I think that's what it is. Because when you look at it from like a critical level, just if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's another one of those types of movies, but... Okay, so trivia. It got a split vote from Siskel and Ebert.
Really?
Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars, saying he liked it more than the first one. No.
Wow.
I don't agree with that. Then again, he thought Home Alone 3 was the best Home Alone movie, so...
Oh, no.
So this isn't the first time he said. And he thought Thunderdome was the best Mad Max movie, but anyway, we'll not get into that. He appreciated the lighter tone and the toned-down violence. Gene Siskel was not as praising of it. He thought the first one was better, feeling this one was just non-stop action. Fair enough. And wished that Conan had a better love interest in this movie. That's a good point, actually.
That really is, because Conan really doesn't have a love interest. Like, they try with Jenna, but it, really doesn't develop at all.
Oh my god, that would have been gross if they went that direction. Because isn't she, a underage?
I think so.
Oh my god. Then again, considering the time period, I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, that was one thing I thought really worked about the first one was the chemistry between Conan and Valeria, and this one was definitely missing that. What? Leonard Maltin. Okay, try and guess what he gave it.
Man, this is hard because he liked Batman Forever. I'm gonna say 2 stars.
You gonna say 2 out of 4 stars?
Yeah, 2 out of 4 stars.
Conan the Destroyer?
Yeah.
Close. He gave it 1.5 out of 4.
Oh, wow.
Slightly overshot it. He called it a lumbering attempt to pit Robert E. Howard's Hyborian Age hero against very derivative special effects, leading to a ridiculous climax. I don't know. I enjoyed the climax.
Yeah, I thought the climax was awesome.
It was a little bit ridiculous. I'll say that, you know. Because you got Arnold, like, screaming a bunch and stuff.
Yeah.
And just flailing around. Yeah, it is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I'm not going to get mad at somebody for not liking Conan the Destroyer.
Yeah.
Now, if they enjoyed Red Sonja, I would get mad at them. But thankfully, he didn't enjoy. I think he gave that 1.5 stars as well.
Okay.
This got 2 Razzie nominations.
I'm gonna go worst supporting actor, and then, man, I don't know. Well, let's also go. I mean, I personally don't think so. But let's go worst score.
Worst score is your guess.
Yeah, worst score and worst supporting actor.
Okay, you were close on one of them. One of them was worst supporting actress
Oh, okay.
for Olivia Diabo, who played the princess in the movie. I don't know. I didn't think she was that bad in it.
Yeah.
Certainly not as bad as who I assume was your guess, the guy that played Malik.
Yeah, that was gonna be my guess.
And worst new star, also for Olivia Diabo.
Huh.
And she also won in that category.
Yeah, I don't think she was that bad.
She wasn't great. She wasn't like, she just didn't stand out much to me. Like, during her scenes, I just was thinking, I wish Daenerys was in this movie instead. That was basically my thoughts whenever she was in. And then with what the other guy, Malik, I was just thinking, I wish he wasn't in the movie at all.
Yeah.
I mentioned the Masters of the Universe connection. The third Conan movie was supposed to be released in 1987, but it ended up in development hell because Arnold was doing Predator, and the contract he had with Dino De Laurentiis had expired, and he didn't feel like negotiating another one. Probably because there were too many party of the first part type clauses in it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's all right. That's in every contract. That's what they call a sanity clause. You can't fool me. There ain't no sanity clause.
10 years later, the script became the film Cole the Conqueror, which starred Kevin Sorbo.
Great.
Of Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, and Xena, Warrior Princess fame. Which the only clip I've seen from either of those shows is the disappointed clip. It's the only clip I've seen from it. Which, if we do that animated Hercules and Xena movie, I'm definitely including that clip in there somewhere.
Have that be the opening, the opening sound effect.
Wait a minute. This isn't my world. Disappointed! I also found out while scrolling through Tubi TV that there's a Conan TV show from the 90s.
Yep. Oh wait, that's on Tubi?
Yes, and I
Oh!
did watch one episode of it.
Was it bad?
Arnold is not in it, if that tells
Yeah.
you the quality.
Yeah.
It stars a German actor named Ralph Moeller as Conan.
Huh.
Apparently they used the image of Richard Burton as Crom. 13 years after he died, and he gets a cameo as Crom in the first episode of this show.
That's so weird. Why would you do that?
They fucking Tarkined him.
You see, I think that when we make the next Conan movie, we need to do that same thing, but with Marlon Brando.
They sort of did that with Superman Returns. And it's also sort of like what they did with Laurence Olivier in Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. But yeah, and Mickey Rooney is a guest star in the first episode.
Oh.
Not the person I would expect to be in this. And thankfully he's not doing what he did in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Good lord. Lou Ferrigno also appeared in an episode as a guest star.
Really?
But not in the episode I watched. I watched the first episode, and it is fucking horrible.
That's great to hear.
Bad acting, bad dialogue, bad production values. It just was not a good show. And there was also an animated Conan series called Conan the Adventurer. And guess what?
Is it bad too?
This show is also on Tubi TV. And
Why does
one
Tubi
episode
TV
of it.
have all these Conan shows?
Yeah, I watched one episode of it. It wasn't very impressive either.
I imagine it was probably like a kid's cartoon.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently this show does... It doesn't have Tulsa Doom in it, but it does have the snake cult.
Really?
So that was kind of interesting. And a third Conan film is in development, but will it get made? Probably not.
It'll get the Batgirl treatment. They'll finish the movie and then not release it.
Batgirl. Yeah, let's just look at it right here, and it's gone. The rating was knocked down to PG because Universal Pictures and Dino De Laurentiis thought the first film would have made more money if it wasn't rated R.
Huh. Not sure I agree with that move.
And they were wrong. Very, very wrong. This movie was released 2 days before the PG-13 rating was created.
Oh. That's bad timing.
In order to get a PG rating, some scenes were cut. And it sounds like most of these were scenes involving Sarah Douglas's character, which that explains why she's absent from the movie so much.
Yeah.
Apparently, one of the scenes that was cut was a sex scene between her and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you're not gonna get a PG rating with that.
Yeah.
As well as a virgin sacrifice and the seduction of a statue.
Huh.
I'm not gonna lie, I really want to see some of this.
Release the PG-13 cut.
Because this sounds more in line with what
The first movie was almost. Yeah.
Okay, the movie had a hard time finding a horse for Wilt Chamberlain to ride.
I could see that.
He was so tall that his feet touched the ground. They ultimately found one in Spain that was big enough and imported it to Mexico.
That's interesting that they filmed it in Mexico when they filmed the first one in Spain.
Wilt Chamberlain and Grace Jones didn't get along on set.
Kind of shows.
Like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Chamberlain had to keep asking Jones to turn down her boombox. Yeah, that would annoy me too. Probably. John Milius, the director of the first movie, was unavailable to direct this film. So the studio took a more active role than they had on the first film, which Arnold considered somewhat they did serious mistakes. After the phenomenon of E.T., Universal thought this film would make more money if it were family entertainment.
What? Hey, that Friendly Alien movie did really well. Let's make our Barbarian movie about a guy that cuts people up and more like it.
Yeah.
Studios, man.
Schwarzenegger argued against this change, but they overruled him.
Gotta love the committee.
Director Richard Fleischer agreed with Schwarzenegger, but complied with Universal's wishes to make this sequel more like a comic book. And yeah, it didn't make as much money as they hoped.
Yeah.
And Arnold later feared the same thing would happen with Terminator 2: Judgment Day, when the Terminator was forbidden from killing anyone. Both Schwarzenegger and Dino De Laurentiis washed their hands of the series, with Schwarzenegger opting to only do contemporary movies from now on.
That was probably the smart choice for him, I mean.
Well, contemporary movies and movies set in the future.
Yeah.
Grace Jones put 2 stuntmen in the hospital by accident with a fighting stick.
Wow.
She trained for 18 months to prepare for the film.
That's pretty impressive.
It makes sense, though.
Yeah. Do you think one of those people was the wizard she stabbed through the chest with the spear?
Maybe. Some scenes were filmed in the same location and at the same time as scenes from Dune.
Oh, I'm gonna have to rewatch Dune now to see if I can recognize all the areas from Conan the Destroyer.
Why would you want to rewatch that movie?
Because I have it on Blu-ray.
You seriously? Are you fucking serious?
Yes.
That movie is a piece of shit.
We have, I guess it's at my parents' house, but we have all 3 versions of Dune. We have the mini David Lynch one, the miniseries, and the new one that just came out.
The new one's actually good. I was surprised.
I still haven't watched it.
I was surprised. I actually really liked it. 6 people controlled the Dagoth monster, working its arms, mouth, eyes, and body. And one of those 6 people was Andre the Giant. And, that is funny. They got Andre the Giant to be in this, and you don't technically see him?
And didn't he also go uncredited in the movie?
Yeah. So people wouldn't have even known it was him either.
Yeah.
Roger Donaldson was originally chosen to direct, but producer Dino De Laurentiis moved him over to The Bounty.
Better or worse than doing Conan the Destroyer?
That's a better movie.
Okay.
It's a better version of Mutiny on the Bounty than the one that had Marlon Brando in it. And it's actually kind of surprising how many young actors that weren't that famous at the time, but later became very famous wearing it, because Mel Gibson's in it.
Huh.
Daniel Day-Lewis was in it. Liam Neeson's in it, I think.
Wow.
Anthony Hopkins, he's in it. But yeah, John Milius recommended Richard Fleischer, who had worked with Dino De Laurentiis before, and who had directed The Vikings, one of Milius's favorite movies.
Huh.
Of course he likes movies about Vikings.
Okay. So I just read one. Do you mind if I take over this one real quick?
What's this one?
So this was actually something that I kind of noticed. I just didn't bother to look into it. To create the illusion of cold breath, the actors put dry ice in their mouths. Because dry ice is dangerous to touch, little mesh cages were made to hold it safely. Because if you remember in that ice cave scene, it looked like they were blowing like smoke out of their nostrils when they were breathing. Because it was like really thick. So I wondered about that.
Richard Fleischer's one complaint about the first movie was that Arnold Schwarzenegger's body was too clothed. He spent so much of that movie with his shirt off, though.
I know, like the entire opening was him without shirts or pants on.
For the sequel, he says, I made sure that Arnold was undressed 99% of the time. I'm not going to complain about that, but okay. It's just he watched the first movie, and I guess he does wear, like, some, like, jackets. So in the first, anyway, like, coats. I guess he wears coats in the first one. But most of the scenes I'm thinking of, it's just Arnold, and he's not wearing a shirt, so...
Yeah. It's kind of the Conan look.
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to not wear clothes. Arnold Schwarzenegger's commitment to this movie delayed production on his next movie, The Terminator.
Oh.
This came out the same year as the first Terminator movie.
It's a busy year for Arnold.
Yeah, especially since that was the movie that made his career. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, Conan...
It put him in, like, the spotlights. People knew him, but then Terminator really
skyrocketed him to fame, yeah. This turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It allowed writer-director James Cameron to write additional drafts of his Terminator screenplay.
Huh.
Which became a critical and financial success, obviously. The delay also gave Cameron time to write Aliens, which he was also allowed to direct on the strength of the Terminator's success. The part of Malik was originally assigned to David L. Lander due to both his deteriorating health from the onset of multiple sclerosis and difficulties with the director. Lander was let go, and the part was recast with Tracy Walter. Oh, yeah, okay, this makes sense. The sequence which Conan fights the Thoth-Amon monster in the Chamber of Mirrors was influenced by the famous Hall of Mirrors final battle from the Bruce Lee movie Enter the Dragon.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I was thinking about that while watching that scene, actually. I was, like, thinking of this kind of reminds me of Enter the Dragon, and I guess it was done deliberately.
Huh.
When Bombarda and Zula are fighting, Grace Jones actually bit Wilt Chamberlain's ear.
Huh.
That is real blood running down his neck.
Huh.
The shocked look on Wilt's face is genuine.
I think I see why they didn't like each other. So, that was Conan the Destroyer.
Conan the Destroyer, yeah. I don't know what we're doing next. But I think I liked the movie. I guess it's a guilty pleasure. I mean, it's a movie. Like, I enjoyed it while I was watching it, but I can't really defend it. So
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm at with it. Like, I would watch it again, but I can't really call it a great movie. It's not definitely not as good as the first one, but
Yeah. And
but
with
anyway, enough talk.
join us. And with that, join us next time when we talk about Terminator: Dark Fate.
No, we're not. We're not. I'm sure there's better Arnold Schwarzenegger movies that we could do than that.
Like Escape Plan.
Escape Plan. Have you seen Escape Plan?
I have not.
I saw it once.
Was that enough for you?
It wasn't horrible. I just don't remember much about it.
It's the Arnold Schwarzenegger Stallone team up that happened 30 years too late.
We should do some Stallone movies. I will say that.
And if you want to, next we could do Rambo.
We could do Rambo, or since the next episode is it will be the 50th movie we've done, we could, do something else. But I guess we'll have to figure that out at some point.
Yeah. So I guess for now, roll the Andy Griffith.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.